Alrighty, yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. DDG94 here, back with another reaction video. Today, we finna react to a fallen, a fallen, tragic, fallen person from a place that we used to go for our free music. And no, not Lime. This is after LimeWire. This is a place we used to go to get our free music when artists used to put out music for free. Before Drake fucked everything up with the, yeah. People used to put out mixtapes for free on DatPiff, bro. And DatPiff, man, it ain't been the same since, bro. Drake put out nothing, not nothing was the same, but what was that one? If you read This Is Too Late and called it a mixtape and charged people for it, and then everybody's like, you mean to tell me I could charge people for a mixtape? All right, bet. Then niggas started doing that. Then everybody fucked up the whole mixtape situation because niggas would hop on niggas songs and then make their own version of it. But then rappers was like, you know what? Instead of letting you get that for free, why don't just take your verse and then make that the remix, and then we just get some money together on that. Everybody's like, oh, okay. And yeah. The mixtape scene ain't been the same since, man. But anyway, so let's get right into this. The tragic death of DatPiff. Let's get it.
There was once a time when every new mixtape released on just one website. Before Spotify and Apple Music completely took over streaming, this free platform called DatPiff was no doubt the go-to place for new mixtapes. However, despite hosting all of the most legendary
Downloaded all these off here. Cushion. Oh my god, bro. Cushion OJ. I remember downloading that Big Sean album. My first time listening to Drake. I fuck with this. This is probably one of Rick Ross hardest projects. Low key, like this is an underrated Rick Ross project right here. No Ceilings. Obviously, I don't fuck with Lil Wayne, but I as many times if I brought it up, I will never sit up here and say that the first No Ceilings was not good, bro. The first No Ceilings, that shit was fire. I ain't gonna even hold you, gang. The first No Ceilings was fire. Plus, I remember, bro, DatPiff was a way for me to experience new artists, bro. It's hard for me to experience new artists now because how like what's the word I'm looking for? Like how oversaturated the rap game is now. It's hard to get into new artists because it's so oversaturated that it's like, and then a lot of people sound the same. You be thinking this person, that person, and then it turns out that person is a different person. And you get confused a lot. It happens, man. But anyways, though, back to the video.
drops for over a decade. Today, DatPiff is a graveyard. The app doesn't even exist anymore, and their website has been completely wiped clean, leaving fans worried that their classic mixtapes may be lost for.
Yep, a mixtape gone too. Yep. My mixtape was on here too. Yep. If I had a mixtape, I used to do the rapping thing. I had before I made this YouTube channel. I had another YouTube channel, but I deleted that channel so that way my past will never haunt me. That's the main reason why my past will never haunt me. Okay, because if anybody found out about that second channel and them garbage ass freestyles, oh god. I ain't gonna sit here and say my raps was bad. Like I said, I keep saying it, like my raps wasn't bad, my delivery was just terrible. The raps weren't bad, I was spitting, but the delivery was just terrible, bro. I had a bad speech impediment. But anyways, though, back to the video.
Forever. But what happened to the king of mixtapes? Well, as we're about to see, the death of DatPiff can actually all be traced back to one massive mistake.
I started to learn that, I've entered the Silicon Valley world now, the corporate world. So again, I'm sitting there having to think like, damn, I killed my own brand.
If you didn't grow up in the late 2000s and early 2010s, you will never fully understand how important DatPiff was to hip-hop. Launched back in 2005 by this guy named Kyle KP Riley, his original idea was simple: bring every mixtape together to one place online. The only problem though, KP had zero experience in technology. So as a result, KP decided to team up with this guy, Marcus Frazier, for some help.
I don't really have any technical skills myself. You know, in the beginning, I teamed up with a guy who was super involved in programming. One of his hustles was he used to buy and flip sites. You know, that was his thing.
Hey,
I'm gonna
yo,
buy a
what?
site that's outdated, and I'm gonna give it a full makeover, and I'm gonna sell it.
Together, Marcus and KP.
Oh, that
got
nigga
right to
was
work
probably
building
making
their new
bank.
business. Marcus
Hope he
focused
got
on the actual
royalties.
website, while KP worked on using his connections to bring users onto the site. At first, they honestly weren't in it for the money, but rather instead to feed KP's constant desire for sharing new music and helping upcoming artists.
But this was at a time where the internet, like you said, wasn't really as, you know, dominant as it is today. So really the only way for me to share this music was to go to my friends and say, hey, here, listen to this, you know, sit in a room, sit in a car and just play the music. So something just dawned on us, like, you know, there's got to be an easier way to do this. There's got to be a way where we can upload this to the computer.
Still to this day, KP says that DatPiff never spent a single penny on advertising in company history, but by simply spreading via word of mouth. Over the next few years, DatPiff's user base saw exponential growth, which also opened up the ability for them to sell ads on their own website. Regardless of their early success though, the DatPiff team remained small, as by 2008, there literally remained just 2 employees, KP and Marcus. However, that very same year came the first major roadblock on their journey. While KP had faced no issues up to this point in terms of any legal trouble, that was until one day when his phone rang.
And we had Leor Cohen, who was running Warner at the time. He basically reached out, well, he essentially told his team, look, I can't stand that one of our main artists, when I search his name on Google, free mixtapes are the first thing that comes up. He's like, that's just not acceptable.
With the head of Warner Records upset that DatPiff was uploading their artist Gucci Mane's mixtapes all for free, KP was in a tough position. But as the smart businessman he is, after then flying
They mixtapes. Gucci was putting them out. Shit, what you mean?
out to New York to meet with Warner and discuss options, an agreement was then met to basically work together in partnership. As by showing them DatPiff's streaming numbers for Gucci's music and how much they've helped him grow, KP describes this as really the first moment when record labels came to terms with the idea of mixtapes, and accepted they were here to stay.
So labels started essentially saying, you know what, like we have to give them more creative control. If they want to do a project with their friend or with another artist, we can't say no, because they're just going to go do it anyway and put it out.
But in 2008 though, came another one of DatPiff's biggest decisions in regards to development, opting to switch over to a user-based uploading style, similar to that of YouTube for example. The only issue was, Frazier was allegedly adamant about keeping pirated retail albums off his site, which meant he had to review each submission himself. This quickly became too much to handle, and with the queue to post onto DatPiff sometimes hitting 2 to 3 weeks, KP and Marcus Frazier knew it was time to expand. However, not by much, because even at the peak of DatPiff's success, the number of employees never reached more than 5, since KP wanted to keep it small to avoid internal problems. As we're about to see in a sec, KP would later change his mind, and although what he did still haunts him to this day,
Things that still kind of pains me every day is just how DatPiff didn't go out in the right way, and this kind of desire to not fully feel at peace until that happens.
back in 2009 though, DatPiff was just getting started. Keep in mind too that when they launched, Spotify and Apple Music were still yet to even exist, so if you wanted to listen to music, you not only had to download each song to your iPod or MP3 player, but also
So we had LimeWire for it. LimeWire still existed around this time.
purchase them individually. Yet, DatPiff eliminated both of these problems, providing a trusted middle ground for the hottest new mixtapes free of charge. Now, the late 2000s in hip-hop was also when we saw the blog era come to fruition, and with the rise of a new generation of soon-to-be stars, one question remained. Where were fans going to stream their music? For a while, the obvious answer was DatPiff.
DatPiff, if you're too young to remember, DatPiff used to be the go-to place for new mixtapes.
Yep.
In a lot of sense, they're truly pioneers in the streaming space altogether. But DatPiff was one of the most crucial outlets in hip-hop, in the blogosphere, in the music industry. This is where you found all the classic Big Sean mixtapes, all the classic Lil Wayne mixtapes, etc.
Wiz Khalifa was really the first major artist that blew up from DatPiff, recalls KP, when people realized you can profit very handsomely off giving away free music.
Yep. Wiz was probably the first new person I discovered off was Wiz Khalifa. Then after that, a rabbit hole started. Then came Mac Miller. Who else after that? Started listening to Meek Mill early shit. Big Sean early shit. I want to say around 2008, around that 2008, 2009 period is when I started listening to Big Sean. Found out about J. Cole. Yeah, I found out about a bunch of niggas through here. I think the last nigga that I discovered off DatPiff before I stopped using DatPiff was I'm trying to think, who was it? Damn, who was it? Because DatPiff really wasn't popping like that, and I wasn't checking for mixtapes no more around. This is like my senior year of high school, bro. Because I remember Big Sean dropped that Detroit tape, and after that, I'm trying to think who else. I can't think of who it was. It was somebody, bro. I found one artist, bro. I can't think of who it was, though. You know what? I take it back. The last person, I can't remember the third. No, I take it back. It was another person I found. Fucking Cardi B, bro. That was the last person I found on fucking. But that wasn't the 2013 that I was thinking of. That was literally the last person I think I found on DatPiff was Cardi B, and that was it. That was like the last person I discovered. Even though I already knew who Cardi B was, cause her Instagram, she used to be funny as hell on Instagram. She used to have like. Before her first page got hacked on Instagram, bro, she used to be funny as fuck, bro. But like after, like when she jumped into the rap game, I was like, oh shit, she got a mixtape. I was like, oh shit. I listened to it. I was like, I wasn't impressed, but I was like, I see the potential though. I wasn't impressed by it, but I saw the potential. I think that was like what 2014, 2015. That was probably like the last time I think I ever even typed in DatPiff. I think I only typed in DatPiff because I was looking for like instrumentals and shit. I was looking for instrumentals for my NBA mixes and shit. So I normally go to DatPiff and try to download some instrumentals or a beats pack, because some producers like to upload beats packs and shit, like had like 100 beats on one fucking. Yeah, bro, DatPiff. I used to literally just go to DatPiff for instrumentals at that point, because I was like, I was dedicated to the YouTube shit. But then I saw Cardi B on the front page. I was like, hold on, Cardi B rapping? Damn, because I wasn't on Instagram no more.
Instead of charging fans to stream the music, these major artists that were blowing up on DatPiff, like Wiz Khalifa, were seeing the profits pay off in other ways, such as ticket sales or merch. But by no means is Cushion Orange Juice the only classic DatPiff release. KP is from Philadelphia, which is important to note because the #1 most downloaded mixtape in DatPiff history is Meek Mill's Dream Chasers 2, a Philadelphia artist that KP not only came
like I said, Meek Mill early shit, bro, and some of his the Dream Chasers series, bro. That was some good shit. I ain't gonna hold you. That was like Meek Mill in his prime, bro. I'm happy that he's starting to go back to that formula, like just rapping about the pain and the trauma and coming up and shit like that. Even though he done already made it, that's kind of like his specialty though. It's like once he started stepping outside that specialty, it's like, I ain't really fucking with it.
With, but actually convinced into using the internet.
And a lot of people don't know this, but Meek Mill was one of the first artists I had to sit there and beg. This was about 2009. Meek was doing about $100,000 each time he would put out a mixtape. He would easily sell $100,000 in the streets, within 2 weeks of selling physical copies. And I said to, Charlie Mack, who was his manager at the time, shouts to Charlie Mack, I said, it's cool, but when I go to LA and I talk about Meek Mill, everybody looks at me like I'm crazy. They say, Meek Mills, what the hell is that? I don't even know who that is. I'm the one who convinced him to essentially use the internet, because he was very internet illiterate at the time.
He still is, some would say, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, yo. To pay Meek and his team anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 to post his mixtapes. As more and more artists were joining by the day, soon a snowball effect started rolling. However, contrary to another popular media platform at the time, instead of following WorldStar's strategy and charging artists a fee to post onto their website, instead, KP and DatPiff began doing the exact opposite, paying artists to post on DatPiff. And the very first artist to ever do an exclusive release through DatPiff, to no surprise, was Soulja Boy.
And funny enough, Soulja Boy is somebody who always prides himself on, I was the first to do it. Soulja Boy was the first major artist to reach out to us and talk about exclusive content. And, he was huge at that time.
Even going on to release an entire mixtape titled DatPiff in 2009, along with then countless more mainstream artists seeing huge growth through the platform. Of course, we can't forget the king of the mixtape era himself, Lil Wayne. No Ceilings, Did Drought, the Dedication series, Sorry for the Wait. These are just a few of the many legendary Lil Wayne DatPiff
Only
mixtapes.
the first No Ceilings, and that's it. I don't listen to none of that other bullshit.
DatPiff allowed Lil Wayne an outlet to share.
Yeah, I know some people gonna talk about, bro, you gotta listen to the Drought 3, the Drought 2. Nah, I pass. I've gone damn near I've gone my whole life so far without listening to the Drought 1, 2, or 3, Dedication 1, 2, or 3, or 4, whichever fucking number he on now. I've gone my entire life without listening to any Lil Wayne mixtape project aside from No Ceilings. No Ceilings was the only one I ever listened to because I forgot what song it was. But I heard him say some shit. I was like, hold on. That shit kind of hidden, bro. Who that? It's like, what's that? It's like, what's that on? He just put that out there, basically? Or just, nah, it's a mixtape, bro. No Ceilings, bro. You gotta check that out, bro. So I went ahead, I checked it out. I was like, I fuck with it. Stamp of approval. But so far, like all the Drought and all that other bullshit, nah, you can miss me with that. Especially them Joel Santana mixtapes. Oh, no. That gets no play over here.
Hear me and hear me good, nigga. I'm here to double down. That shit is a 2-pack of ass. The fuck are you talking about? That shit stinks.
I will never in my life listen to. I ain't trying to listen. What's it called? Can't Feel My Face. I will never listen to the project. You can miss me with those. Fuck out of here.
Songs with fans literally whenever he wanted. Not to mention, without having to worry about samples or clearing other artists' beats, which he'd often rap over for his mixtapes.
And my approach to mixtapes was always different. I always thought a mixtape was supposed to be, and I still do my mixtapes that way. I thought it was supposed to be you wanting to hear me on the songs that's out, that I'm not on. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like 10 hot-ass songs that you're in the club banging Terry Day or whatever. I'm about to kill them bitches for you. Mm-hmm.
Almost like an exclusive project for his diehard fans. Interestingly, though, Lil Wayne's team worked a little different with KP, realizing that they were already raking it in terms of cash. Instead, Wayne's team asked for something else in return.
Lil Wayne and his team were very forward, thinking as far as saying, you know what, we make good money. What's more valuable to us and to Young Money than money right now is data. So if you're able to collect all the data of people who access your site for this release, download it, stream it, rate it, if you can basically export all that data and give it to us so that we can use for our mailing list for the Young Money tour, for, Nicki Minaj, for Drake.
As KP said, quite the forward thinking. But
that is forward thinking.
The greatest rapper of all time working with you to distribute his music, and with DatPiff themselves bringing in millions of dollars a year as a business by that point, this leaves us with the question, how did everything crash down so fast? And now having totally abandoned their app and website, is this really the end of DatPiff? The year of 2016 is often recognized as one of the best years for hip-hop in recent memory. But besides a new generation of young talent bursting onto the scene, this was also the time when the method in which listeners consumed music shifted too, with new streaming services popping up such as Spotify and Apple Music. At first though, KP wasn't too worried, and remained confident in what he had built.
We were on autopilot for a few years, and, Spotify, Apple Music start popping up, and, I was concerned, but my thought was also they'll never be able to do what we do, just because of the legality around a lot of this music. Wasn't fully thinking at the time about, okay, what about the labels that oversee this music though?
As these other platforms started taking over, going on to revolutionize the way we stream music, artists, and especially their labels, realized that they could not only increase visibility by releasing on Spotify, but more importantly for them, they could make way more money. Not to mention that SoundCloud had also entered the game around this point too, really exploding in 2016, providing artists with a new, trendier platform to post their music for free whenever they wanted.
I would drop a song and Uzi would drop 2-3 songs, just bump me down to number 3, number 4. And I'm like, you doing that shit on purpose? He's like, yeah. I'm like, what a shithead, you know what I'm saying? That's my boy. That was crazy. It was real. People were with SoundCloud heavy.
But besides Nav and your other typical SoundCloud rappers that come to mind, there was also the former DatPiff legend Waka Flocka Flame, who, much to KP's disappointment, one day decided to post all of his mixtapes that were previously on DatPiff over onto his SoundCloud page. At Waka Flocka, signing away all your mixtapes just for a quick bag, KP tweeted in 2018. Nah, bro, Waka fired back. DatPiff, y'all been making millions behind every artist back. You only tweeting because I took down all my mixtapes. You lame culture vultures. Hashtag death of DatPiff. Combined with the line between what constitutes an actual mixtape versus album blurring at this point too, with projects like Drake's If You're Reading This It's Too Late, KP was quickly coming to terms.
Yeah, that was the killer right there. If you're reading this, it's too late. That was the killer right there. Because once everybody saw Drake doing that shit, it was like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me I ain't gotta, even though they was getting paid from DatPiff, it's like, nigga, I could just throw that shit on Spotify and call it a day. I could throw that shit on Apple Music and call it a day. I could throw that shit on YouTube and call it a day. And that's where all the money is. Yeah. It's time to make a shift.
Terms with this shifting industry. And then, after an important phone call in 2016, he prepared for the worst.
I want to say sometime around 2016, I was actually warned from an A&R. I don't mind saying his name, Jay Grand from RCA. I don't know if you know Jay Grand. Jay Grand called me because we had a great working relationship. He was an A&R for an artist I worked closely with, Kid Ink, at the time. And he basically said, look, we had a kind of a communal meeting of all of our labels, and the industry is about to change and shift, and we're going to start enforcing things a lot more, and you're going to see things change over the next couple of years.
Following this call, DatPiff was in for a rude awakening, slowly watching their exclusive releases continuously dwindle down to basically zero. As record labels adjusted to this new streaming era, in a last-ditch effort to adapt, KP would then launch and lock in on the DatPiff YouTube channel, able to then release a few exclusive projects with artists on there. Unfortunately though, KP was only delaying the inevitable.
Seeing the revenue decline, and then just the extra work I was having to do, and again, being a small company, me shouldering pretty much everything, it became a lot to do just to sustain barely what we were doing.
With DatPiff's revenue on a consistent decline, KP was forced to make his toughest decision yet. It was time to sell the company. Yet the question remained, to who? Having built this entire business from the ground up, basically by himself, KP did not want to just sell it off to some randoms. And as it turns out, the streaming giant Apple Music was actually one of the first interested buyers. If you can remember, back at this time, Apple Music was also experimenting with the idea of exclusive releases, one of the biggest being Chance the Rapper's coloring book, which KP had offered Chance a deal to release it via DatPiff in 2016, but there was just no way he could compete with Apple.
So that was another thing. Chance was somebody that, I did all of his, mixtapes up to that point. I went to him with an offer of 50 grand, I think, for that mixtape. And then I remember a few days before Apple Music released it, his manager Pat called and said, Apple offered him 1.5 million.
Wow.
And then, again, that's one of those things like, damn, like I couldn't even get close to that. And I can't be mad at him. You're talking about 50 grand compared to 1.5.
Not only did the Chance the Rapper DatPiff deal fall through, but so did Apple's offer to buy the platform. And as KP felt left with no other choice, in 2019 DatPiff was officially sold to this Santa Monica-based company called Media Lab. With only one other brand under their belt at the time, Whisper, Media Lab apparently had a big desire to venture into the music space, and felt that acquiring DatPiff was the perfect place to start.
They made a fair offer for brand, and obviously the fact that revenues were declining, turning down a couple $1 million was kind of like, we could never get this offer again. And if they can, provide this kind of Silicon Valley backing and the funding and raising money that they're able to do, this really could be the next kind of, turning point for DatPiff to last another 15, 20 years, maybe in a new business model, maybe in a new way.
At first though, KP was thrilled. He got a nice fat paycheck in his pocket, and at least as it initially seemed, he did not have to sacrifice this business he had dedicated his entire life to. Now, that's not to say he didn't still have his worries, but in an effort to help make the transition smoother, KP was then given a new role within the company and moved out to LA to work in their office. However, over the next few months, KP's biggest fear came true. To start, he began to realize that this new company did not have the technical ability to even maintain what DatPiff had previously been doing, let alone, as he expected, Media Lab had zero clue of how to operate in the music space. All they allegedly cared about was money, and KP was forced to sit back and watch.
Going in there just, going off about how they're killing these brands, they need to do do more. Like your P&L, your, these spreadsheets you give us. Like none of us give a fuck about that. We just want you to, at minimum, sustain what we did to be successful to this time. And you guys aren't even doing that.
As he tells it, all Media Lab wanted was more money, but yet their actions were leading to the exact opposite. KP tried to remain patient, but as the year of 2020 then rolled around, so did Media Lab's next business idea. During the COVID pandemic, KP was tasked with bringing them in similar brands which could help revive the company. And having known the guys behind the similarly struggling media outlet, WorldStar, for over a decade by this point, following the death of WorldStar's original founder and CEO, KP knew that these new owners would likely be open to discussing a deal, and starting fresh like DatPiff did. Thus, WorldStar was also then purchased by Media Lab. However, this idea totally backfired for KP and DatPiff.
So we brought in WorldStar to the fold. And at that point, I had my oh shit moment even more, because I realized now, okay, not only do they fully not know what they're doing, not know the industry, but now WorldStar is the top priority. DatPiff has now become, the least priority.
According to KP, Media Lab simply was not interested in investing any more money into these purchased brands, but rather just wanted to leverage their popular names and power to milk them for all they had left. But they didn't stop there.
So Genius came into the fold, and then what happened was Genius became now the top priority. WorldStar gets kicked down, DatPiff is at the bottom, so now I have all my WorldStar guys looking at me like, what the this kind of sucks now. Like,
in 2021, it was announced that another popular online music outlet, Genius, had also been officially acquired for $80 million by Media Lab. And as we can see today on their website, they kept going. Media Lab now owns Genius, Imgur, WorldStar Hip Hop, the formerly popular Kick Messenger, DatPiff, Amino, and Whisper. They still market DatPiff as, quote, the authority in mixtapes on their page, with allegedly a 5 million global monthly reach. However, if you go to datpiff.com, the site which used to be home to thousands of classic mixtapes, today you are instead met with this misleading message. Embrace the next generation of DatPiff. We're evolving beyond our website and app to take DatPiff to the next generation. While we're working away on the next iteration of DatPiff, we've partnered with archive.org to continue to make the library accessible. We'll have more to share soon, but in the meantime, make sure to follow us on YouTube and Instagram to stay on top of new mixtape releases. As it stands, if you want to listen to any of these old DatPiff mixtapes, you have to access them via the Internet Archive, which, while I suppose it's good we can still hear them, as KP also agrees, the way they have handled the website is terrible.
It was more so them basically saying, we don't want this liability is not worth it for us. Let's just half-ass archive it to archive.com, hope that it stays there, and just basically wash their hands of it.
With Media Lab essentially no longer wanting anything to do with DatPiff, in March of 2023 then came a server crash which almost erased everything. As users had already been pointing out how the platform was basically dead by this point, one day fans noticed that DatPiff had shut down. But as thousands of RIP posts flooded and fans paid their respects to a fallen legend, then came this announcement. Despite the rumors, we are happy to report that we will still be supplying you with all the mixtapes you love. We're working through technical issues on our site and app, but still actively update our YouTube. Thanks for all the love and concerns, but we promise we are still here. With doubts that this tweet was just damage control though, and a fast way to ease worry, again, this post was over 2 years ago. And not only does the DatPiff website still remain frozen like this, but again, their app no longer exists either. What had seemed like the perfect transition for KP and his business had suddenly turned into a nightmare right in front of his eyes.
They ended up getting themselves in such a bind because they weren't able to turn more profits on the site, the sites that they brought in. And so they just stopped completely investing into anything with these brands.
After, as he says, finally getting out of his NDA with Media Lab, KP can now talk about what truly went down. Despite his new position within the company, and despite being paid extremely well, watching this business, which was like his baby, come crashing down could not have been easy. In fact, we know that it wasn't easy, because shortly after cutting ties and then leaving Media Lab on rough terms, it turns out KP actually offered to buy back the entire DatPiff name and brand. However, Media Lab declined, and as for their reason why,
maybe they were trying to operate privately, or I'm not sure the exact reason, because what I offered versus what it was making in the state that they left it in, it would have been worth their while.
As a result, this has only led to more problems though for Media Lab. Once, record labels learned that their good partner KP was no longer in charge of DatPiff, and instead a multi-million-dollar corporation in California now owns it, this became the green light for labels to start enforcing more DMCAs, and taking their artists' music down off of DatPiff. But although we've started to see a lot of these older mixtapes now be uploaded to Spotify and Apple Music, many of them just aren't the same, missing multiple songs due to samples not getting cleared or forced to change different instrumentals. At the end of the day, nothing will ever hit like those old mixtapes on DatPiff.
Well, you sold out. You know, you're a sellout. And I even responded to them saying, you know what, to a degree, I did. And it wasn't with the intention of selling out with the purpose of harming, hurting. At the time, I really thought it was something that would be beneficial for the future and the growth and all that stuff. And even when I brought in WorldStar.
The truth is, no one really knows if DatPiff's website and app will ever actually return. However, one thing is for sure. KP is out of the picture.
Damn, that's sad. That's sad. But then again, he should have never sold it to a global. He should have never sold it to him in the first place. I understand you was gonna get the money, but I would have never sold it to I would have sold it to somebody that I know is gonna take care of it. Fuck the money. Is you gonna take care of my product and make it better? Fuck the money. I understand you gotta do what you gotta do to keep the lights on, but if I created a global empire like that, I'm not selling it to some soulless company that can just throw money around. Like, no, don't do that. No, it's terrible. Instead, I'm gonna sell it to somebody who is going to give it the care and attention that it deserves. Not treat it like it's a goddamn burden on their company. Like, no, absolutely not. That's unacceptable. But anyway, so that's just gonna about do it for this one. It's sad how DatPiff, y'all went outside, brother. That's a damn shame. Y'all went outside, brother. That's sad.
Boom, 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 boom.
It looked like it's just gonna be stuck in the state of limbo that it's in right now, because they clearly don't care about it. You can say the same thing for WorldStar too. So shit, damn, bro, the shit we grew up with, the shit my generation grew up with, bro. We grew up with DatPiff and WorldStar. Now they just gone. They just soulless entities now. Damn, sad. But anyway, so that's just gonna do it for this one. I'll see y'all in the next video. Till then.